Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for one of the last talks of Coalesce. I was very excited for this talk because in the weeks leading up to it, I personally learned a lot from Drew, and I hope that you do too. We'll be talking about how RAMP grows faster using data, and specifically how they do it in the new quote-unquote world. The talk today is pretty straightforward and honestly going to be concise. We'll first introduce RAMP so that everyone can kind of get their footing. Maybe you've already heard of RAMP before. And then we'll spend most of the time talking about answer engine optimization. Now, what is that? I mean, you'll find out in a second. And to wrap it up, I'll show you a quick demo of Datadog Data Observability, which supports the AEO effort at RAMP. I'm Kevin Hu. I work on the data observability product at Datadog. Previously, I was the CEO and co-founder of Metaplane, a data observability startup that was acquired by Datadog about 6 months ago. And it's my pleasure to share the stage with Drew, who is the head of growth analytics at RAMP, and someone that I really enjoy learning from. And with that, I'll pass it over to Drew.
Amazing. Thanks, Kevin, and thanks everyone for hanging in there through the whole week in Vegas here and coming to our talk. So like Kevin said, I'm Drew from RAMP's growth data team. And before I talk about growth, I just want to give you a quick intro to RAMP and tell you about the data that the data team has to work with. So RAMP's a finance platform for modern organizations. We're focused on saving businesses money and giving finance teams their time back. We have over 45,000 customers and process over $100 billion in transactions annually. And our products integrate with the entire modern finance stack. They span corporate cards to travel. So if your company's on RAMP, there's a very good chance you booked your flights to Vegas through our travel platform, and you're probably charging your meals to your RAMP card. Our customers are businesses of all sizes across all industries. At the end of the day, we're really just about delivering real impact to their bottom line and saving them time so they can focus on their own missions. So what does all of this mean for the data team at RAMP? Well, we get a lot of cool data to work with. Our product generates a ton of first-party data. We've got over 45,000 customers processing over $100 billion of their transactions annually. And because RAMP handles bill pay, expense management, and procurement, we actually have receipt, invoice, and contract level data on these transactions. So we can see exactly what businesses are spending on. And if a customer pays Google, we can actually look at the invoice and see how much of that spend was on Looker versus Google Ads or BigQuery. So before I tell you about how we're using all this data for growth, I want to give you a quick intro to answer engine optimization. Here's how people research products in the old world. They go to Google, they enter some keywords like best corporate card, they get back a bunch of blue links, and then they click into them and read. So in this world, growth teams do search engine optimization, or SEO, to rank in these results. Now here's the new world. You're probably familiar with it. You ask an answer engine like ChatGPT your question, and you get an answer back. Many times, you don't even leave the LLM chat interface. And in this world, growth teams do answer engine optimization, or AEO. AEO is basically like SEO, but for LLMs. But we found that the tactics needed to show up in LLM answers are actually completely different. And I won't do a full AEO course here, but there's two things that matter a lot. First, uniqueness of content. So with generative AI, creating content is basically free. Anyone can produce a ton of content overnight. And to stand out to LLMs in this world, you need first-party data that no one else has. Second, freshness of data. Constantly refreshed data gets crawled way more often by LLMs, and it gets way more citations. So how do we apply all of this to RAMP? Well, we took inspiration from Rich Barton. Rich is the founder of Glassdoor, Zillow, and Expedia. He said, if you set information free and shine a light on important information that was once in the dark, magic can happen. Across Zillow and Glassdoor, there's two constant themes. One, if you can unlock information, you can build trust, fuel engagement, and scale massively. You can turn on the lights. Two, value gravitates towards the platform with the most eyeballs. So Zillow believes that 2/3 of home searches start on Zillow. You probably also know Redfin, and they also have accurate estimates of home values. But Zillow is worth 15 times more. So to extend this Zillow example, there's 45,000 businesses on Ramp, but there are millions more businesses not on Ramp. If we only showed our data to our existing customers, that would be like only showing the Zestimate to the homeowner. The playbook here is to take our first-party data, build a proprietary metric, build exciting and crawlable pages, do it at scale. This is how we want to become the default starting point. So that's what we're building. Every decade, there's a marketing reset. Paid search in the 2000s, paid social in the 2010s, and we're in the next one right now. Every month, more finance decision makers will get their first impression of Ramp from LLM summaries. The assets that surface are first-party, curated data sets that answer specific questions. In SEO, it was all about backlinks. For AI, it's about citability and freshness. The product is the distribution, default open data that earns citations in research bots and shows buyers what good looks like before they even talk to us. Our goal is to turn the lights on and become the default starting point for vendor research. Our product's called Ramp Rate, and it gives all decision makers unique insight into thousands of vendors. So how do we actually build this? We talked about how Ramp processes over 100 billion annual transactions, and we have a ton of unstructured data from receipts, invoices, and contracts. If you've ever done an expense report, you probably have these crinkled up receipts in your pocket, and we actually get pictures of those. So taking that raw data to a few clean Ramp Rate metrics is actually a pretty interesting engineering and data science problem. At a high level, there's sort of 3 steps. First, we extract structured data using OCR and LLMs. Next, we consolidate transactions into canonical vendors. And finally, we aggregate the data and calculate our metrics. Now, here's a view of our tech stack that makes this happen. There's 2 things I want to call out. First, monitoring with Datadog is a key piece of this stack, and you're about to hear more about that from Kevin. Second, at the end of the flow, we push everything into Sanity's content management system using high touch. Once this is set up, we can ship public website pages independently without any engineering work. And so what can go wrong with all this? Well, when you're building public-facing data products like this, you really need high-quality, correct data. You need to know first if something's wrong, otherwise you risk losing trust and credibility. We want to automate and scale Ramp Rate as much as possible. Without a human in the loop, we need a way to test outputs for anomalies and freshness and other data quality issues. And that's where Datadog enters.
Thank you, Drew. Okay, it's the last section of the talk. Thanks, everyone, for your attention. A very quick primer on Datadog. We're an S&P 500 company. We help over 30,000 customers like Samsung, NASDAQ, Shell, ensure trust in their infrastructure and applications. And you probably worked with software teams that use or have heard of Datadog before. Well, we have a booth here, and the most common question that we were asked was, we know Datadog, but what are you doing here at dbt Coalesce? Well, over the past 15 years, we've progressed from infrastructure monitoring to application performance monitoring to logging to security. And throughout the whole time, we've built on top of our own real-time unified data platform that helps break down silos within organizations. And most recently, as part of the Metaplane acquisition, we've been investing in data observability to help bridge the gap between software and data teams. So to ground that, you've probably seen a diagram like this one. Data is flowing from sources to a warehouse where it's transformed by dbt and then out to BI and AI tools. And everything looks fine until a customer flags a data issue. So you start troubleshooting, the context is fragmented or messy, or maybe it's missing entirely. And meanwhile, the problem is compounding, and you're starting to lose time and trust, 2 things that are very easy to lose and hard to regain. And to help shift from this picture of more reactive firefighting to proactive action, that's where Datadog Data Observability comes in. So let's say that I'm a data engineer at a fintech company like Ramp, call it Pulley, and there's an issue where the quoted prices are incorrect. And instead of the issue going unnoticed and eventually impacting customers, I get a Slack alert saying that the quoted prices are less than expected, and this is based not on manual checks, but on machine learning anomaly detection, taking trends and seasonality into account. So I click into Datadog and I ask myself 3 questions. Is this real? Does it matter? What can I do about it? And to answer that first question, is this real, I hover over the Snowflake node and I see the most recent data points. And it looks like, yes, there's several occurrences of data that's below expectation, so there's probably a real problem happening. But number 2, does it matter? And instead of trawling through query logs, trying to find the downstream lineage, Datadog automatically parses it for me. So I see that there's an executive reporting BI dashboard and table in a vector database storing embeddings that's affected. So this issue does have a meaningful downstream impact. And finally, I ask myself, number 3, what can I do about it? And I can see, because Datadog helps me map all the way upstream, the Snowflake table is materialized by a Spark transformation, which is erroring out. It expects to see a file in S3 that is no longer present. And Datadog is mapping, saying that this Spark transformation is pulling from an S3 file in this bucket, and that file is being populated by a Kafka pipeline, which is fed by a microservice. And I can inspect the microservice that's producing Kafka messages and see that there is a recent schema change, which corresponds to a recent feature push. And to resolve this, I can ping the on-call engineer to roll back to the relevant PR. So what you just saw is a little bit different from existing data observability products, including Metaplane, as much as it hurts me to say that. Existing products often start from the warehouse and then shift one step to the left or to the right. But by starting towards the end of the data pipeline, the damage is often already done. But Datadog Data Observability is the only product that spans the entire data lifecycle, all the way from the services and the applications that produce data to the streams and ingestions that move data, the jobs that transform it, through the warehouse, and then down to your BI and AI assets that consume data. So finally, you have this end-to-end visibility from the source so that you can resolve issues faster and start making progress towards preventing them in the first place. And with that, that's our talk. Recently at Datadog, we released our DBT integration, which shows DBT lineage within that end-to-end view that you just saw, and alongside the metrics, traces, and jobs, metrics, traces, and logs from your DBT jobs. And if you want a more detailed demo, you can swing by our booth, 115. And lastly, Drew, I heard that Ramp is hiring.
That is true. If we talked about, if it's interesting to you, we are hiring. We have a couple roles posted here, and there's many more on our website. So come by the Datadog booth after this. I'll be there. We can chat. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Does anybody have any questions? Yep, just a sec.
This is a dumb one maybe, but I didn't recognize the logo between Snowflake and DBT. What was that?
Kevin knows that too. It's a Metaflow. It's like a ML model orchestration software. Yeah, it's kind of like Airflow for ML.
I'm curious, did you publish pages like this prior to AI engines, or was it like, hey, we need to be relevant, let's come up with a idea to be listed? I mean, there's some elements that seem SEO-ish.
It's a great question. Yeah, we have a bunch of pages that are super SEO focused. In the last 6 months, we've said how do we make these work for AEO too? And that's where we sort of developed all these learnings. Actually, it's pretty different what works for AEO and works for SEO.
Can I tag on to that real quick? I realize that's a Ramp question, but I've been following, I'm a big Ramp stan, and they have an economist that for the past maybe year or two has been publishing really interesting stats about data. For example, what are the most expensed vendors in Manhattan, or the adoption rate of different, ChatGPT versus Claude over time. So I feel like they've been doing interesting stuff with data for a while.
Yeah, his name's Ara Karazian. He's amazing. So follow him on Twitter or wherever. He puts out all kinds of cool stuff with this data.
I think there's a question up here. Oh,
yep.
So I know we've used Datadog for observability of, let's say, AWS assets and all of that. Is your Metaplane already entrenched to provide the whole thing, or are you still in process of integrating everything in place?
We're still in the process. The core components are in there, so our column level lineage parser, our machine learning models, and it works for Snowflake, dbt, and Tableau right now. And we're building out the rest of the stack.
So what I care about, you already have. Thank you.
Yes, okay, great.
We've been
Yeah.
playing around with the beta with it embedded in Datadog. It's pretty cool.
Any other hands?
Cool.
Cool.
Well, if anything
Well,
else
thanks.
comes to mind, come by the Datadog booth.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
so much, guys.